Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled in the studio today is actress KK Dodds and rock star Nina Hagen, a German phenomenon. KK was born in Champaign, Illinois, and grew up in Evanston. After her graduation from Columbia College, she worked at the Steppenwolf Theater. She's done some TV work, some film, a lot of commercials, but she really loves the theater. Why is that?
I think because you can do, when you do a show, when you're doing a play, you can do the whole thing. You know where you're starting from, and then you know where you're getting to. You don't film the last scene first and then, have a 2-hour break and then go right and do an emotional scene that's, it's all out of context. And when you're doing a play, it's there. You have an audience and you're right there and it's happening, and so.
But there's good theater in Chicago.
There's great theater in Chicago. And I didn't come out here to do theater.
Oh, that's what I was wondering.
Right. If I wanted to just do theater, I would still be in Chicago because I think it's great. However, I happened into this play, which was an excellent piece, and it's something I really wanted to do and contribute.
The play that you were doing at the Tiffany Theater?
Yes.
By Claire Chafee?
Yes.
Why We Have a Body?
Yes.
Oh, that's what brought you out here?
Well, not what brought me out here. And I came out here to do film.
Well, I was going to ask you, if you really
expand.
love theater the way you did, why you didn't go to New York?
Right. New York seems really scary to me. It seems really expensive and busy and congested, and here it's just a little bit, it's a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah, but you were in Chicago.
I know. It's different, believe me. It is different. And I've had a hard time adjusting to some things, And the film and the TV and the whole thing, it's different.
So tell me a little bit about the play. It premiered in San Francisco, and then it played
ran for 7 months up there.
Oh. And it ran in Los Angeles for
about 3 months.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
And it was written by a young playwright who's only written one other piece. Mm-hmm. She's working on a musical, I understand, for the Berkeley Rep, and her name is Claire Chafee.
Claire Chafee.
She lives in San Francisco.
That's right.
So now you tell me what the play was about and why it ran so long in San Francisco.
What it's about. It's about women. I mean, it follows 4 women. It's a sort of surreal. There's no plot or linear line, but I don't know how else to say it except that it's about the experience of being a woman. Whether you are a mother, whether you are sisters, whether you are in a lesbian relationship, it covers all of these things, all aspects of being a woman, and it's quite, it's moving.
Therefore, Why We Have a Body?
Why We Have a Body. Well, what she says in there, in the play, she says, it's the only thing we take everywhere.
Ah, that's right.
It's the thing that tells us what does it say? Oh, it tells us what we can't remember.
That's right, I forgot.
The body is old, the body holds grudges, tells us what we can't remember.
No matter who you are, what you are, or at what stage you are, you always have your body with you.
Yeah.
You talked about the relationships. There was a mother relationship, there was a lesbian relationship, and the funny thing is the ads called for lesbians and gays. It said, we're looking for 2,000 lesbians or 500, whatever.
I know,
Why would it do that, advertise it as that?
You would be best to ask our producer, Harriet, about that.
Harriet Levy, who's fabulous.
Yeah, she is great. I think this play really appeals to a gay audience. One, because if you're gay, you don't have much out there in the way of romance that's going to appeal to you to watch in the arts, in film, or certainly not TV.
But this piece was so real. I mean, it didn't, to me,
Right.
it didn't look or feel like it was a gay piece. It felt
No,
like
it's
a
not.
mainstream
It's
problems of women.
absolutely. It's not. I wouldn't call it a gay play. No. But I would say, if the gay community gets wind of this, they're hungry for something to that speaks to them as well and their experience, and there is that part of it.
You had a show-stopping role. I mean,
Yeah.
I had read the critique, and I think there was a picture of you in LA Weekly or in one of the local newspapers.
Drama.
And when you came out on the stage, and you were very serious first as the sister, and then you came out, and all of a sudden you went berserk.
Yeah.
And it was so perfect.
Yeah, there were a couple scenes. Mary, that character, Mary, I think she was.
That's your character.
Yes. She's the one who has no filtering process, of what to say and what not to say, what to do and what not to do, which is very smart, And so she'll go out and if she's trying to have a job as a school crossing guard, and it just so happens she ends up directing traffic because idiots don't know how to drive. That's just how she thinks.
She couldn't be a crossing guard. She had to be more.
No, she had to be like, you stop, you turn, and now it's all about the traffic. And so I got to do outrageous stuff like that, and it was difficult approaching that character because she was crazy, So I didn't want to fall into the traps of playing her crazy or general.
But you wouldn't know what to expect from her.
Right.
So
But it was hard. You just had to find her logic and play it.
And sometimes she was very emotional, and other times she was, like you were saying, directing traffic. She felt more comfortable, though, in a in-charge role.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. When she has this scene where she breaks down with her sister, and says, God, why couldn't I be fierce? She has this thing about Joan of Arc, and she wants to be a leader. She wants to be heard, and she wants to be seen, and noticed. And she is by robbing 7-Elevens, by directing traffic, by doing, wielding guns and all this stuff. She is, but she just doesn't think she is, So here she is with her sister saying, well, why couldn't I be the one who is fierce? I've never achieved anything.
When you take something on like this, do you feel like you're going to be the showstopper or the person who steals the show?
No, I didn't. I mean, it was a lot of pressure in a way, too. That I knew this role was a little outrageous, and certainly a lot of the comic relief that comes within the show. But it's very poignant, and that role speaks to me when she says, my two fears are making something out of myself and not making something out of myself. I'm scared of both.
Right, exactly.
So that speaks to me, and I understand.
So that's really brilliant on Claire Chaffee's part, to be able to pull all these things in.
Yeah. And each character, I mean, I'm telling you, there is comfort and sympathy for every type of woman, in this piece.
I can see that being made into a movie, because I think wouldn't it be great?
Yeah.
Now, when you
I'll probably go get Juliette Lewis.
when you go for auditions, do you come up against Juliette on certain parts?
No, I would say one time I went on an audition for a movie, Strange Days, that is coming out. The role I auditioned for was eventually the role she got, but I was never in competition with her because, if they're going to go for a name, they're going to go for a name.
But do you come across the same people when you go to audition? Are they the same lookalikes?
Sometimes,
are they friends?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, for either commercial or others, I see, similar people that I would see on auditions.
When you worked in Chicago, you did a play with John Malkovich. How different was that, working with someone who was extremely well known, as to working on the stage with someone who isn't well known?
Oh, it was daunting at first. I'll have to say, I was terrified. I was like, I'm on stage. I had to be like, stop that.
I'm on stage.
I'm on stage with John Malkovich. But no, I'm in a play. No, I'm this character. So I had to get used to it because it scared me. But he was wonderful and so warm and there for me. And so then you forget about it and you forget that you're in a high profile situation.
So it was a learning experience,
It was,
obviously.
definitely was.
And then you studied with Jeff Perry and Milton Katselas and several people.
Right.
What do you
And
learn?
Joyce Piven, also in Chicago.
What do you learn? Something different from each person?
Yeah, definitely. I would say my favorite class was the Piven Theater Workshop. That's in Evanston. You had people like John and Joan Cusack both came out of there, and Aidan Quinn, and it was they used theater games and a lot of improv, and
So
I loved it.
Each person has a different technique.
It's different, yeah.
The way they teach.
Definitely, and some people are very specific. Like Milton is very specific.
But what happens to you as an actor when you go to approach a role and you've learned
Got
from
all these different.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of create your own. I mean, you'll find things along the way that work best for you in approaching a part, and that's what you do. Really, you just take a little from what you learned here and what worked for you here, and like that, you just take a little. I think every actor is still in search of the perfect class, the perfect technique, the perfect way.
But then
that's why they go through,
and keep
to the next
sharpening.
person, the next person. Yeah.
But one thing is you can never be sure that what you learned at this time is going to help you in the situation you're in at the particular moment.
Yeah, it's true. And then you never know, oh, maybe I should do Meisner. Oh, maybe I should do, you know what I mean? Because people will swear by it. So you say, oh.
Are you musical?
I love music. I'm a music fanatic. And I just bought myself a bass last year, and I've been playing electric bass.
Oh, electric bass.
Yeah.
Bass. I see.
Yeah,
I see.
but I love music, but I can't sing, I mean, not anything,
well,
melodic, but I do. I really love music.
Well, our next guest is a singer.
I know.
And she is
Nina
a singer.
Hagen. I love her.
Rock star Nina Hagen.
I
You
know.
knew her music.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
we're really happy to have her. And we were so happy you came today,
Oh,
KK.
great. I'm most glad to be here.
Thank you for being with us.
Okay.
And don't go away. We'll be. Hi, we're back, and I'm Joan Quinn. Our guest is artist Rena Small. Rena was born in Los Angeles and earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts and a Master of Fine Arts in Art and Design from California Institute of the Arts in Valencia. Soon after, Rena moved to New York City, where she worked and lived for close to 10 years. Her work has been seen in galleries around the world, and she's represented in several international collections. Rena Small teaches at Cerritos College, Palos Verdes Art Center, Marymount College, and Rena, what do you teach at these places?
I teach people how to see. I try to develop their vision. I try to give them hope.
Well, that's great.
Make them dream.
That's great because people, you're talking about seeing in a different way than
Right.
just seeing, right?
Right. Primarily, though, I teach photography and I use the camera. The camera is a mask, and you're behind the mask, and it's such a precious. It's still precious photography, just basic black and white. I love the classics because the student or the person using the camera, it's their brain that's seeing the world. And so I try to help them see the world the way they see it. And it's fascinating, and they get all charged up.
They see it the way they see it, but
Right.
are you showing them new ways to see it?
Right, well, I give them assignments, like photograph something you hate, photograph something you love, photograph something extraordinary, something ordinary, and put the two together.
Do they have to be great camera people?
I teach them how to use the camera properly.
You do?
I'm a real stickler for technique, yeah.
So it can't be a cheap camera from the, those kind of,
I like to teach them to be professional.
But that's looking through a camera. Then do they
Right.
start seeing the rest of the world with different viewpoint?
Yeah, well, they start to see their world. I mean, it was fascinating working in Norwalk because I had students that were living in gang-infested neighborhoods. And so one of the assignments was social document, and this woman started photographing the very complicated language of tagging and how people are tagged and they're going to get killed. And I mean, it was really amazing to see her photograph it.
Did she learn it, or did she know it when she was photographing it?
No, she knew all about it.
Oh, she
and
did.
So she taught me the language of the taggers, which I had no idea that the graffiti has a very complicated secrets behind it.
And how do those people who live in those communities actually know what those graffiti tags mean? I guess
They learn it because they live it. They know that the arrow that points down means that somebody's going to get killed. Now, I had pepper spray, and I told her to get some pepper spray, and she laughed at me and she said pepper spray doesn't do anything against guns. So, and then on the other hand, I teach at Palos Verdes Art Center.
totally different.
I love it. You know, I get the tennis set, and, you know, 10-year-old boys that are on their way back from their tennis matches, and so I love the contrast, you know.
But it's
and
still
people are people.
It's still looking at their own world, isn't it? So you're getting a view of all these different worlds as well.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
What's one thing that, as a layman who sees art, I mean, I see things really beautiful. I see the colors in the flowers, you know, the Clifford Miller brought, the leaves are different colors. But what else should you look at in something like this?
Well, what I think is amazing about all floral, you know, all flowers, is that they're organic. And I think Robert Mapplethorpe photographed them so beautifully. And that's why I love the hands so much, because they're so organic.
And now,
And so, yeah, and I've been photographing flowers lately, actually. It's a new series I'm developing, these long stem rose pictures. So I'm having these really long photographs I'm developing them. But I can understand why Mapplethorpe photographed flowers.
but so what should we look at in something like this?
Whatever you want to look at. I mean, I tend to look at the stamen. I tend to look at the lines and the texture. I smell them. I'm very aware of how they smell because I'm right here. So I don't tell anybody what you should look at. It's what do you see, Joan? What do you love about it?
But just to make you concentrate on something.
Yeah.
Just to concentrate on something.
Look at it from all different angles. Stand up on a chair, get down on the ground, you know, move your body.
Is that what you do with your camera? Take your camera and do that?
Right, there's just you can be hanging from the ceiling if you need to. You need to be.
I see.
Just depends what somebody wants.
You started talking about the hands of being very organic, and I always think of you as a photographer, but I know you use a lot of different medias, which we have something of right here in front, the cards. What media is that?
That's actually a photograph of a playing card that was developed by magicians in the 40s. It's called a Phaco card.
Oh.
And so I just restructured it with the colors, and I colored it the way that I wanted to see it.
So it was based in a photograph.
It was based in a photograph. So I do work with the photograph first, and then I go from there. That's my structure.
Well, describe your work. Describe how you would say, I'm Rena Small, I'm an artist, my work is.
Well, at this point, I'm sure that my job as an artist is to teach people, or teach everybody, that life is a complete mystery, and it is to me. So somehow I'm bringing out the details, and I'm focused on the hands because we're such a facial culture, and everybody is worried about how they look. So I think that as an artist, I'm interested in the emotions and how they work and how they drive people.
But one of the things about artists use their hands. I mean, that's the most important thing that an artist has. Not his face or the way he looks, right?
Right. But also we all use our hands, and somehow our hands are just always expressing themselves. I was watching you, and you were really using your hands. It's fantastic.
One thing...
and it's totally unconscious. That's what I love, the unconsciousness. Just like the unconsciousness of playing cards. When I was a little girl in the family, you know, we would all play cards, and everybody would just be in this card zone. So relaxed. And that's a material of my work, is that I want the audience to be completely relaxed.
Well, one thing I know people don't think of, but once my manicurist used to do manicures for people who were hand models.
Oh,
So
yeah.
she'd say that you always have to get the blood out of the hands because the veins puff up. So she would always have people stand like, her model stand like this, because once you go like this, then the blood puffs the veins out. Did you ever think about anything like that?
No.
Because an artist wouldn't
That's
think of that,
amazing.
would they?
But I did have a job in New York for Warner Books. They gave me a job to photograph hands. The book cover was supposed to be David and touching in the Michelangelo painting, David touching God. So I interviewed every hand model in New York. So these hands were walking up the stairs in my studio on West Broadway, and I wasn't looking at the people, I was looking at the hands, and I think that started something really. I was just looking at people as just hands. So it was a lot of fun.
We have on the set this picture of hands that are so scary to me. Whose hands are these? They're like very ominous.
Yeah, this is Carl Andre in 1984, and I had just begun the project. And what was scary about that photograph is it was totally innocent when I took it. But a year later, Carl unfortunately was indicted for pushing his wife out a 40-story window, and that photograph had been published in Interview in '85, and so it had been published just as Andre had been arrested. So at Interview they were saying, oh, it's the push shot. It's the push shot.
It really was.
And it redefined, the events redefined the portrait, because he wasn't, I didn't say, okay, Carl, let's push now, but it was a push. And
He did it just to you?
He did it in the studio, and it came from his body, and it scared the heck out of me. It really scared me.
This one is so calm, this photograph next to you.
That's Richard Diebenkorn.
Just calm.
I love this photograph because when I call the artist and say, would you please sit for me, I want to photograph your hands, I spoke to his wife, and she just started roaring with laughter, and she said, oh, I go through this spiel while I photographed Andy Warhol and blah, 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 to try and tell them I'm okay. She says, I don't care who you photographed, as long as you don't want his face. You could come over here, I don't care who you are. And I just love that. And he was so happy that I didn't want to photograph his face. And he was so sweet. He was so sweet.
It's really back to what you were saying. We always think about face being the image, and it's so great that they went, no, just my hands.
Yeah, and I
did a show.
That.
You did a show up at the Temple.
A Platt Gallery, University
of Judaism,
Right.
and it was a whole wall filled with artists' hands.
That's where we met. That's right.
It was fabulous. And we have some of the photographs that were on that wall. We'll put them on the monitor, and then you can tell us who they are and how you went about photographing them.
Okay.
So there's the first one.
This is Tony Berlant, and this was one of those here he works with his glove. So I actually have a picture of with the glove and without the glove. And Tony told me where to stand, which is part of the process. Is I don't come in there and say, okay, you pose for me. We work together. It's collaboration. It's a performance, and we share this moment together, and so that's what I love about it. So I had to get above him on a ladder. Yeah.
Tony does metal and nails, and the stroke of his painting, he follows through the nail heads.
That's right. It's fantastic, and I also have some beautiful ones with his cutters, because he cuts metal.
Yes, he cuts the metal.
Then I love his work.
So the next one.
Yeah. This is Charles Arnaldi, and there's actually a quote that goes with this. It'd be hard to get things done. That's a quote that Charles said with his hands. Many of the artists are contributing quotes, so I hope to have a book sometime.
Chuck uses a lot of stick, works with sticks, wood. Okay, the next one.
Right.
We'll see the next photograph.
Beep.
Let's see who it's going to be.
We're looking at the monitor.
There, Andy Warhol.
Right.
We could tell that.
Right, Andy Warhol, and he was signing, he was at an autograph signing, and I arranged this 3 months in advance, and at that autograph signing, he was signing stomachs and shoes and Brillo, and I was so excited because I got to stand on a little ladder, and we talked before the session started, and then as soon as the doors opened, 50 photographers came rolling in with 35 millimeters, and I felt, it was just like Tom Wolfe said, that photographers are like fruit flies. I really could see, I thought they're fruit flies, and I'm like a giant bee with my Hasselblad. But he was very gracious, and I was so excited because I think Warhol just scratched the surface of pop art. I mean, pop art is such an important movement.
Well, you know, I worked with Andy for so many years as the West Coast editor of Interview, and also as a very close friend.
I know that.
So to see that and to know that he was so for photographers of your quality. I mean, he was always willing to do something for someone that he thought was really, you know, intelligent and had a great eye. Let's see another one.
He was very supportive, sweet.
This is great.
This is Ralph Gibson, and Ralph actually was very instrumental in my career in New York, but he was the only, I've photographed maybe over 150 artists, and he was the only one that tried to tell me what aperture to set my camera at. And I was laughing. He was saying, "Why are you bracketing?" That's a term we say in photography, you know, you just take different exposures. I said, "Why am I bracketing?" He's I know it's f8. I said, "Oh, you know it's f8, do you?" And I just laughed. I felt like Laurel and Hardy. I said, "You do you?"
But he photographs
beautiful.
objects, doesn't he? His thing is not people.
Well, he's really in the moment, and I think that he photographs people, but it's all very much spontaneous, and as he's glancing through his life, you know, he just catches the most gorgeous moments all over the world. I mean, I don't know how he does it. So there are people, but it isn't anything posed. He doesn't pose people.
Oh, he does do people, but just not in a pose situation.
Right, yeah.
I see. Because I know he was doing the covers of Avenue magazine.
That's right.
And they were so beautiful. You'd get just a little branch of berries or a part of just what you were talking about.
Right.
Use your eyes to see something and take a small portion of it.
Oh, he's amazing. He could just, the way he sees life, just as it is. I mean, that's like Cartier-Bresson was like that, you know, it's fantastic moments.
Well, I'm so happy you could be with us today because I think sharing these photographs and seeing the strength and the light and everything that you've done and hearing about the attitudes that you've had to go through, because I know you have a huge collection of artist hands, right?
Right. It's actually I call it Artist Hands Grid Continuum, and I'll be photographing artist hands until I die.
Oh.
And so I have this whole vision. So far it's about 12 feet by 30 feet right now, and it'll just get larger and larger until I go.
Okay, we've got to find it somewhere. We've got to go right now, but we'll see it.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad you were with us. And thanks for having all of you with us. Thanks for being with us. And don't forget to keep writing to us at Joan Quinn, 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 917. We love the letters you've been sending us. Ask us anything. And we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.